Thokoze emakhosini kwanje intokozo. Siyanibingelela nonke ingane zenkosi. Kusho mina uMakhosi uBhubesi lokhuluma phambi kwenu kulesikhathi samanje. Siyathemba ukuthi niphilile nokuba ningene kahle kulonyaka omusha. Kwasala zonke izinto ezimbi nezibhlungu enyakeni odlule nangena nomqondo omusha nezifiso ezintsha namaphupho amasha avuselelekile. Navula unyaka nizizwa ukuthi nikhuthele emandleni nasegazini, ngokomoya, ngokomphefumulo, ngokomqondo, ngokwenhliziyo, nangokomzimba. Right. So today I have decided that I'm going to talk to you about healing. This is something that was inspired by a conversation I had with one of my friends a few days ago, and basically I needed to try and explain what healing is and why it takes such a long time. So I decided that I should share this so that some of us can become enlightened. Maybe we'll also get a chance to better understand ourselves and our own journeys of healing. Right. So as a soul that is living in this world, you're living in a body, in the flesh. And your soul is accompanied by a purpose. So everybody has a soul purpose. So before you are born, you sign a soul contract in which all the things that you are to fulfill are enlisted in that contract. So by signing it, it means that you agree to whatever terms and conditions are in there, and then you are then conceived. So you arrive on earth and you are born to your parents. Some souls are able to choose their parents. So some souls are able to choose who their mother will be and who their father will be. And of course, there's a lot more in-depth detail that goes into how a soul can choose his mother or her mother, his father or her father, etc. So once you then arrive on planet Earth, or in the physical realm, which is what we refer to as the world, then you basically are going to start your journey of healing. So some people come back as old souls. That means they've lived before on this earth. They might have lived as a different race, a different continent, various different circumstances that they might have lived under previously, and might have seen certain successes and joys, might have seen certain traumas and certain misfortunes and certain generational curses, and has now come back to try and redo or improve on what they had done previously in the previous life. And so that's basically more or less how an old soul becomes or comes back onto the earth. So we can then dabble a little bit on the ideas of reincarnation, or evolution, whichever concept that you believe in. But old souls do come back onto the earth, and when an old soul has then fulfilled their soul purpose, then they ascend and they become an angel. So angels have levels as well. So we'll get into that on another day. So when you come back as an old soul or as a soul, you are reborn into the universe. According to your contract, maybe you've got karmic debt. Maybe before you caused a lot of people pain, you were a heartless person, maybe you were cruel, maybe you were arrogant, maybe you were condescending, and a lot of people suffered because of your conduct and because of your attitude. So when you come back, now you are back to pay that karmic debt. So that means the same amount of pain and frustration and trauma and sadness and abuse and challenges that you caused other people to face, you will then face yourself, so that there is equilibrium and there is balance. And that's basically the concept of karma and karmic debt. Then you may have also been someone who was very kind, you were very generous, you were very humble, people took you for granted, people didn't respect you, people did not appreciate the beautiful things that you did for them. You were someone who was very selfless, you always served people, you always showed up for people and supported people, you were always encouraging and motivating people, and you were just always filling up the cups of other people, but nobody filled your cup. So when you come back as an old soul, now you are coming back to receive basically your trophies, your rewards, your trinkets. People are coming back to show you the love that you have shown others previously. The support that you have given to others previously, you now receive the same amount of kindness, the generosity. People will do things and say things and arrange things in your life that bring you joy and prosperity, equivalent or even more than what you did for someone else. So basically, you come back into this life so that the universe can reward you, so that the universe can acknowledge the wonderful things that you did for other people. And that's also karmic debt as well, but that's good karmic debt, because you will be surrounded by a lot of positive energy, positive experiences, positive lessons, and positive vibrations will follow you throughout your life, in various, wherever you go, basically in various different areas and aspects of your life. You will just be surrounded by a lot of success, a lot of happiness, a lot of joy. You will not be in need. You'll be prosperous. You'll be abundant. And everyone around you will also be very abundant and prosperous as well. So you become like a magnet for everything wonderful, everything that is a blessing, everything that is light. And that's the universe, and of course the heavens will be showing you appreciation for being a beautiful reflection of what it means to be righteous, what it means to be good, and to show other people that kindness still exists in the universe. So when we come back then to the process of healing, the process of healing is something that continues from your birth right until your death, and sometimes even after your death, because what dies is really the body but not your spirit. And so healing is a constant process. It doesn't stop. We have to do the work in order for us to evolve and to become better people. We have to acknowledge the cycles and the patterns that we keep going through. Maybe you have lived in a certain city and you were living a certain life surrounded by certain types of people, and then you move maybe for university purposes or for work purposes, and you feel like you keep going through the same experiences over and over again. You keep meeting the same types of people with the same types of personalities over and over again, and it's time for you to sit yourself down and actually have a proper look at your life and do introspection and try and see what it is that all of these people and all of these life experiences are teaching you. Because if it keeps happening to you over and over again, it means that there is a lesson, or there are lessons that you need to learn and you are not learning them. So these things will keep happening. These cycles will keep showing up in your life until you learn the lessons that you need to learn. And so it doesn't help to be resistant and to say that you don't need to do any spiritual work, you don't need to do any healing, you're fine the way that you are. Nobody is born perfect. We all always have room for improvement, and it's important for us to constantly work on ourselves and to constantly grow spiritually so that we become better people. This doesn't only serve ourselves, it serves the people around us. It even serves our children and our grandchildren and the rest of our ancestral lineage, and even the generations that will come from our bloodline. Healing is very important. It also breaks generational curses. It breaks generational spells. It breaks those karmic cycles which aren't great. And it also helps to introduce good karmic cycles which will bring abundance and prosperity and positive energy to yourself and your lineage, and even the generations that will come after you in your bloodline. So that is the process of healing. So there's different types of healing. You would need to discover which method works best for you. And sometimes the method is easily influenced by the nature of healing that needs to take place and the depth of healing that needs to take place, depending on the depth of the trauma or the depth of the pain, the depth of the shame, the depth of the embarrassment, the depth of the guilt, etc. So all of these largely involve emotions, self-esteem, dignity, self-image, self-love, self-value, and learning to put yourself first, learning to be accountable, learning to be responsible with your words, with your actions, with how present you are when things happen around you. Are you aware? How aware are you? And how connected are you to yourself and to your lineage? Because all of these different aspects contribute great amounts of important information that will actually help to enhance the experience of healing. Some people will find themselves sitting in a space and just feel like crying and not understand why. They just feel like crying and they will cry and cry the whole day. And nights will come and they'll be crying until the next morning they'll be crying, and they just don't understand what is it that they're crying about. Why? When you ask them why are you crying, they cannot tell you, and truly they really do not know, they really do not understand. And that's where spiritual work comes in. You could have gone through traumatic experience in your past life, and in this present life you have come back to address this traumatic experience. You need to heal from it so that it doesn't transcend and filter into the next generations. Maybe this generational trauma or generational curse has to end with you, and you have been given the responsibility to do the spiritual work so that this does not filter on to the next generation in your lineage or in your bloodline. And this is very important because this is how we break these bad karmic cycles, and this is how we pay these bad karmic debts that get accumulated. So you need to also understand that when you are or have been given the responsibility to basically balance out karmic debt, it might not always be your own debt. You can easily have to carry burdens and challenges and problems because of something that someone in your lineage did many generations before you, but you have been chosen within your lineage to carry that responsibility, to pay that debt. So sometimes people experience trauma and suffering simply because they're paying karmic debt for an ancestor that didn't do so well previously. And of course, it can get very traumatic and it can get very burdening when you learn that this is something that you have been given the responsibility to do, because you may ask yourself questions like, how am I, or how was I chosen to pay this debt, and why me? And why wasn't this behavior forgiven, or these wrongdoings, why weren't they forgiven? Why is it that I have to now pay them back? I wasn't there when that person made those choices. And you might find yourself moving in that direction, and that train of thoughts, and that really doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve yourself. It doesn't serve that ancestor that needs you to pay the karmic debt. It doesn't serve your lineage. It definitely doesn't serve your future bloodline. So that's why we need to understand what healing is and how deeply we need to go into healing, and why. Are we healing for ourselves? Are we healing for people who are in our lineage, who have come before us? Are we healing to balance karmic debt? Is the bulk ending with us? You need to understand the responsibility that comes with healing, the power behind it. So when you're given power, you need to be responsible with it. You need to know how to use it. You need to know how to harness it. And these are lessons. This is information that you will not come into unless you do the spiritual work. You need to have an inquisitive mind. You need to start asking yourself questions. You need to start introspecting, as I said earlier, to say, I feel like I keep meeting the same types of people. I feel like I keep going through the same thing. I feel like my relationships just keep repeating themselves with just different people that I keep coming across. Or I feel like I keep making the same decisions. And I feel like I need to change. I need to do something different. And I need to sit down and try and really figure out, really ask myself, what is it what is going on here? What is it that I'm missing? Why am I missing this? Why is it important? Why have I been missing this once you've discovered what it is that you've been missing? And these are answers that may come to these questions in various different ways. They can come to you through other people and other channels in your life. You can be watching a video on YouTube and suddenly you have an epiphany about something. One of your friends can call you and say something that triggers something in you that could answer something that you're currently dealing with. So this is where awareness comes in, and being able to acknowledge the messages that the universe is bringing forth to you from your own angels and your own ancestors to help you align yourself and to help you align yourself with your lineage so that you can then fulfill the purpose of healing. So it's very important to give yourself time and to heal from things, harboring bitterness, harboring sadness, harboring anger, grudges, pain, shame, guilt, embarrassment. These are emotions that lower your vibrations. They do not bring positive experiences into your life. Instead, they just basically become a magnet for more painful experiences and more shame and more guilt and more anger and bitterness and grudges and so on. And these are experiences that we don't want to go through them. If we can avoid it, then we should, so that we can always try to uplift the energy that we find ourselves in, and that we can exude positivity as well to the next person, because people go through many different types of experiences. Sometimes just asking somebody, how are you, can change somebody's day significantly. You have no idea. Maybe that person has been thinking about committing suicide because they feel like they have nobody to talk to. There's nobody that's listening to them, or nobody seems to be paying attention to them. People have different needs. And so simple things like that, small acts of kindness and gestures, can go a very long way into restoring somebody's well-being. Small acts like that can keep someone from committing suicide, for example, can keep someone from just packing up and disappearing and not knowing where they're going. Nobody knows where they've gone. They just vanish into thin air, and then you get missing persons, and we just never find what happened to them because somebody just felt so overwhelmed and felt so lonely, and they decided maybe they need a new start in a different area with a completely new, different people, different environment, different everything. So sometimes it takes souls, those types of extremes, to eventually reach this process of healing and actually start it. So healing is important. You can heal through journaling, you can heal through speaking, open your throat chakra and learn to express yourself and communicate. You can heal through dancing, you can heal through different other skills like poetry. You write poetry, maybe you perform poetry, maybe you're an artist, you draw, you paint, maybe you do music. Music is your outlet, it's how you express yourself, it's how you release negative energy, it's how you pick yourself up. It makes you happy, it makes a difference. These are all the cues that you need to pick up. Maybe expressing kindness to other people is really what uplifts you, makes you feel better. Maybe you're someone that likes to spend time with elderly people. You like to ask them questions and have conversations with them. You like to get that type of elderly wisdom and advice, knowledge, life experience can only provide. Perhaps you enjoy spending time with children. When you're around children, you feel at your best, you feel at peace, you feel balance, because you are influenced by the innocence and purity of children. The playfulness that children have is really what makes you go into yourself, into the inner child within you, and let that inner child receive healing from being playful. Perhaps as a child, you didn't have the luxury. Perhaps as a child, you didn't have the luxury of enjoying your childhood to the fullest. You weren't able to go out into the streets or to have play dates, or whatever the arrangement is, or whatever the manner of playing as children was arranged in your era in which you grew up. And so that child needs to heal. Maybe that child felt left out. That child felt unseen, felt unheard. And so it's important to be gentle with yourself and your healing, and understand that healing is not something that happens overnight. You don't blink and then you're healed. You don't snap your fingers and then you're healed. You need to do the work, and you need to do it every day, consistently. You need to be committed to your own healing and to your own alignment. And so process of healing takes time. Sometimes you need to go into hermit mode. Hermit mode is when you go into isolation. You don't come into contact with people. You don't go out. You basically become reserved. You keep to yourself because you need to listen to your inner child, your inner voice, your intuition. You need to listen to your thoughts, your feelings. You just need to cry. You need to scream. You need to have outbursts of energy. Maybe you need to gym. You need to punch something. You just need to run. You just need to sit. You just need quiet. You just need to listen to birds chirping. Whatever it is that you need that helps you to just be able to recenter yourself and come back to a point of sanity, for lack of a better word. Because sometimes being overwhelmed and being challenged by all sorts of emotions can really have a very detrimental impact on your mental health, and you can feel like you're losing your mind. You'll be trying to sleep and your mind is just racing like nobody can believe. Your heart is pounding, you're sweating, you can't keep still, you're fidgeting, all sorts of things that happen because we're different people, so we handle pain and trauma differently. Some people find themselves laughing. For example, I know somebody who, when there's been a death around them, so maybe in the family or a friend or something, they just laugh. And other people find that as being insensitive. But those that know them understand that this person laughs to mask the tears, to keep them back, to mask the pain, to mask the trauma of realizing that, we've just lost someone, like someone has just passed away, and we won't get to see this person again. We won't get to laugh with this person again. We won't get to hang out with them or talk to them or do any of the things that we used to do together. And so that's also forms part of healing, is to learn to understand yourself, to learn to understand the people around you, because we are different people. We handle things differently. It doesn't mean that when someone laughs after being told that someone has passed away, that they're insensitive or that there's something wrong with them. It's their coping mechanism, and maybe it works for them, and maybe in this particular chapter in their life, it's a survival mechanism that works for them. It's a coping mechanism that works for them until they start the next chapter of their life, and then there'll be another coping mechanism that they learn, and that one then falls away. So it's important to just try and understand ourselves first and foremost, so that when we get to understand ourselves as much as we can, then we can take time to understand the next person, and to try and then be able to look at things from their perspective without being judgmental, without being condescending, and without ridiculing someone else and making someone else feel small because of how they choose to express themselves. We need to encourage one another to be able to heal, to build conducive environments for us to heal, to facilitate our healing, so that we can all move in this direction of spiritual growth and prosperity and abundance, to establish inner peace and to establish balance. And this is very important in this day and age, in the times that we're living in. We are confronted with a pandemic, which has, to a very large extent, forced us to adjust and to adapt into a new way of living. Some people don't like staying indoors, but at some stage during all the lockdown levels, you would have been forced to stay indoors, and so you have to be able to survive or to be able to live with the people that you actually live with, and not use work as an escape, and not use watching series on your laptop as an escape, and not use just sleeping all day as an escape, to stay away from a confrontation or an argument or anything. We were forced to confront the different types of or different aspects of our personalities that allow us to engage with other people, that confronts us to be perspective on how we engage with other people and how we communicate with other people and how we cohabitate a space with other people. Are we considerate? Are we self-absorbed? Are we selfish? Are we arrogant? Are we kind? Are we able to look beyond ourselves and the bubbles that we've created? Do we allow other people to come into our personal space? And if we do, how much? How do we establish our boundaries, and how deeply do our boundaries get to be held? Is it okay for certain people to speak to us a certain way, or is it not? Or it's okay when certain people do it and it's not okay when other people do it? And how did we get to establish these kinds of things? And so it can really just grow from there. And so all of these things form different elements in terms of what we do and the choices we make concerning our journeys of healing. But we need to heal constantly and evolve constantly. We need to introspect constantly. We need to look at ourselves and see which part of ourselves needs work. How can we improve ourselves? How can we be better? How can we show up for someone who's constantly showing up for us, and we for whatever reason do not show up for them? Someone who constantly checks on us, but for whatever reason we never check on them. And these people, they just don't get tired because they understand us. But because they understand us doesn't mean that we should take for granted the efforts that they make and the love that they express to us and the patience that they share with us, because they want to keep us in their lives and they want us to be a part of their journeys as much as they try to be a part of ours. And so this talk has basically been about healing in general, and basically becoming enlightened to how you can heal and what things that you have at your fingertips that you can explore to ignite your own healing. You need to be able to understand yourself first so that you can understand what it is that needs to be healed, and then you'll know how to heal it, and then you can actually start putting actions towards and actually doing the work, doing the shadow work to become a better person. All right. Thokoze makhosi nikwa nitokozo makhosi kubesi. Makhosi.